Good morning. Thank you for joining us here at First United Methodist Church, virtual and in person. If you're worshiping with us together in the sanctuary today, a couple of things to note. Just make sure your mask is over your mouth and your nose. We're going to continue to mask, especially now, until this space is safe for everyone to be maskless. So thanks for cooperating. On your way in, you may have noticed offering plates in the back center table and by the ramp entrance. To limit germ spread, you're invited to place your offering in the plate or in the box on your way out, or give through the website. If you're worshiping with us online today, no problem, and you can make a donation through our website. Today is the first Sunday of Advent. Can we just give a quick shout out to Sammy for decorating this place? She doesn't get enough credit, but that woman, she knows how to do stuff. So anyway, today is the first Sunday in Advent, and we hope that you received your Advent devotional in your email this morning. And if you did not, you can sign up to receive that by going to by emailing info@grfumc.org. Or you can call the church office, or if you'd like just a printed copy, we have some of those available in the north lobby. Our annual church conference is coming up tomorrow evening. It will be virtual over Zoom. If you would like to attend, you may email info@grfumc.org for the link. The conference starts at 7 p.m. On Christmas Eve morning, we enjoy a meal with our Heartside neighbors and give each attendee a pair of socks filled with necessities called a Casey's sock. You are invited to fill one of those socks at home and bring them in by Christmas Eve so that we can share them at that breakfast. Details are available on our website, and if you'd like to volunteer at the breakfast, look for the sign up in your Church Center app under registrations. Speaking of Christmas Eve, it's happening live and in person this year, including our iconic dance for Christmas Eve. So interested youth, are invited to sign up with Eric at erics@grfumc.org to participate in that rehearsal. We'll rehearse the week before Christmas Eve. For those of you who have joined us for worship in person, it's time to start practicing using our hymnal again. So if you see a song number listed in your bulletin, consider using your hymnal today. Soon we'll start to phase out adding all the words to the bulletin and get back to the way we have done it so many years before everything fell apart. Our Tutoring Center at MLK Leadership Academy is sponsoring a giving tree for our wonderful teachers who have worked so hard over the last couple of years. If you'd like to share some love with those teachers, you can select a card from the tree in the north lobby, and then drop off any gifts that you're able to collect here to the church before December 19. And then today, a new season of adult faith development begins. Joan and I are leading an Advent study called In Plain Sight, and we'll meet in the upper room following worship today. That class will meet through Epiphany. I know, through Epiphany? Yes. And if you are a parent of a young kiddo, age 0 to 18, Shara Evie is starting up our Parent Connection small group again with an Advent study. That group will meet in Wesley Hall today, directly after worship. And starting this Tuesday, the Movement is hosting a 3-part series of spiritual connections here at the church at 7 p.m. And starting next Sunday, Pastor Bob will start a 3-part series of classes. And any more information you can find on that little slip of paper that one of the ushers may have tried to hand to you when you came in today. Let's be together in worship.
nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand, all other ground is sinking sand. When darkness veils His lovely face, I rest on His unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand, all other ground is sinking sand. Shall come with trumpet sound, oh, may I then in Him be found, in His righteousness alone, faultless to stand before the throne. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all over ground is sinking sand.
Wow, thank you, Thomas. Before we jump into our call to worship, hold the following people in your prayers this week, please. Myra, Paul, Donna, Alana, Rick, Carl, Barb, Jean, Ralph, Maxine, Peggy, and Connie. And the love and prayers of the congregation are extended to the family and friends of Jim Carr, who passed away on November 21. That light will be missed in this sanctuary. Please join me in the call to worship. Welcome to worship on this first Sunday in Advent, a season to prepare for the coming of Christ. As the temperatures dip, we gather in the warmth of God's presence. As the nights lengthen, we seek God's light. As the earth rests from its labors, we long for hope. The night is long. Come, let us wait together in the coming of Christ.
Thank you. Please be seated. Please join me in the lighting of the Advent wreath. It's printed in your bulletin. Lord, make us instruments of your hope. When we despair, lift our eyes to your light. When we doubt, lift our hearts to your promise. May we see you despite the shadows, follow you through the darkness, trust you into the unknown future. We long for hope, O God. Help us wait as you work miracles and wonders in the darkness.
A reading from Psalm 130. My soul waits for the Lord, more than those who watch for the morning, more than those who watch for the morning. O Israel, hope in the Lord, for with the Lord there is steadfast love, and with God is great power to redeem. And from the letter of Paul to the Romans. Now hope that is seen is not hope, for who hopes for what is seen? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that you may abound in hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. God of the long and aching wait, this year has swelled with the grief and loss and longing of many. We want so much more than the present condition of this world. Where are you? There are seasons when it becomes difficult to believe in your nearness. Would you make it known to us now? That as we carry each other through this season, we would find miracle in the mundane, tiny sacred flashes of good as we wait for a healing that lasts. Help us to dream that we would find even our prayers grown large in this season, asking for those things which we have marked off as foolish or naive. Help us to dream, not that we would pine for some mirage of how things used to be, but that we would hold space for visions of life and societies where justice can breathe, where power is mobile, and where liberation leaves no soul behind. Come, Lord, and we will wait.
Any other children out there are welcome to come on forward right now. Good morning, friends. It's so good to see you today. All right, we got two more coming. Hooray, friends! Well, did you notice that the sanctuary looks just like a little bit different today? Maybe a little bit different. There's a lot more sparkly things, and there's blue everywhere. And what do you think that is? What? Have you ever seen something like that before? You know what that is? That is an Advent wreath. How many candles do we have lit on that Advent wreath? There are 5 candles, but how many are lit? Do you see how many are lit? Just one, right? Today is the first Sunday in Advent. So I wonder if next Sunday we're going to light one more candle. Oh, I think we've caught on. Very good. Yes, friends. And every week, as we get closer and closer to Jesus' birthday, we light more and more candles. I think that's what we've just established. Yes, Jesus' birthday is basically on Christmas. We celebrate Jesus' birthday on Christmas, right? Woohoo! Birthdays! Well, let's say a little prayer for these weeks ahead, my friends. Would you join me in a little prayer? Let's do it. God, be with us in this waiting, in the waiting for hope and love and peace and joy. It's tough to wait, but with you, we know we can do it. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, my friends. If you would like to come to Children in Worship, we are going to head out that door to my left. Parents, you can find your kiddos after worship by heading out the door to my left, up the ramp, and through the double wood doors.
Our scripture reading this morning is from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 33, verses 14 through 16. The days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I will fulfill the promise I made to the house of Israel and the house of Judah. In those days and at that time I will cause a righteous branch to spring up for David, and he shall execute justice and righteousness in the land. In those days Judah will be saved, and Jerusalem will live in safety. And this is the name by which it will be called: The Lord is our righteousness. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Let us pray. Gracious God, thank you for your invitation to be in community with you and with one another this morning. Open our hearts and minds to your word and to the work of your Spirit within us, so that we may be transformed to become a transforming presence in your world. In Christ's name, amen. Sorry, this mic is a little... All right. So there are, in my estimation, two types of people in this world. There are those who wait patiently until after Thanksgiving to decorate for Christmas. And there are those who, shall we say, get into the spirit of Christmas a bit earlier in the year. I'm somewhat reluctant to admit this, especially at the beginning of a sermon series called The Long Wait. But I do tend to fall into that latter category. I've definitely been listening to Christmas music on and off since the middle of October. And really the only thing that stops me from putting up a Christmas tree in my home many, many months earlier than I should is that I need to keep peace in my marriage. So given my typical overexuberance for all things Christmas, I was surprised to find myself feeling kind of bothered when I visited a shopping mall in New Jersey the first weekend of November this year, and Santa Claus had already arrived. It had only been a few days since Halloween, but there he was doing his whole sit on my lap and tell me what you want for Christmas thing. Santa's early arrival at that mall, partnered with this palpable buzz of extreme holiday shopping already in the air, caught my attention. It was a tangible reminder of how inclined we are to skip over the season of Advent and those sacred spiritual practices and gifts that make themselves most fully known to us when we allow ourselves to dwell in the uncomfortable tension of waiting. As you know, Advent begins today, our spiritual preparation for Christmas. As the days are growing increasingly shorter, it's a time during which we're invited to align ourselves with the literal darkness of the season, as we prayerfully anticipate that which will be born in and among us. A serious practice of Advent, of course, puts us rather at odds with the world around us for these next 4 weeks leading up to Christmas Day. While all around us holiday energy is ramping up, Advent has us prepare by becoming still and grounding our spiritual practices in the waiting. As one biblical scholar put it, Advent is the season where we are caught between joyful expectation and the harsh realities of the present condition while we wait for the promise to be fulfilled. Ironically, the experience of being out of sync with our surroundings during Advent may actually align us more deeply with the very nature of Advent, because Advent is all about dwelling in the unsettling tension between what is and what will be. In our lectionary text for today, the prophet Jeremiah is speaking to a community very much aware of what it means to live in the tension between the harsh reality of what is and the promise of something better to come. In the excerpt we read, Jeremiah is proclaiming the good news of the fulfillment of God's promises to Israel and Judah, that justice and righteousness will reign throughout their land, brought about by a righteous ruler who will ensure that all people live in safety, security, and peace. These are words of great comfort to the people. But if you zoom out to the surrounding text, a much more troublesome scenario emerges. For one thing, Jeremiah is speaking these words of comfort while he's being held in prison for speaking out against the policies and actions of his nation's leaders. Israel has been under immediate threat of Babylonian invasion, and Israel's rulers are losing their long-term vision and giving way to frantic reactionary leadership. A time of exile has begun as the people are starting to be scattered from their homeland. And on top of the political upheaval, there's also this spiritual rift between God and this community. At the beginning of chapter 33, Jeremiah communicates a stark message that God has said to the people, "I have hidden my face from you because of your wickedness." At that moment in history, the Hebrew people were at the beginning of a long wait, marked by incredible grief and displacement. Their community was being politically and physically torn apart, not to mention their self-destructive behavior had somehow threatened their very relationship with God. And yet, in this time of collapse, when even God's face was hidden from them, God was not silent. God spoke to the people through the voice of the prophet Jeremiah. "The days are surely coming that I will cause a righteous branch to spring forth." Although everything around them appeared to be dead and gone, God had already planted something. God had already planted something that would bring about restoration and new life to this situation. In the darkness, in the waiting, the people are assured that something good is growing. In this story, Jeremiah leads the people to remember God's goodness and to perceive God's faithful action even when they cannot yet see it coming to fruition. This is the essence of hope, isn't it? To trust that God is at work even as we wait in the tension between the world as it is right now and the world as it should be. Or in the words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." Or those words from Cole Arthur Riley in our Advent prayer this morning, that perhaps hope is about finding tiny sacred flashes of good even as we wait for a healing that lasts. Or, of course, those well-known verses from St. Paul. "Hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopes for what is seen? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience." What is common to all of those understandings of hope is that hope is about waiting. But it's a particular kind of waiting. It's a waiting that's first rooted in an invitation to trust that God is active in and through our waiting. In Jeremiah, the metaphor for this involved God planting a branch that's at work growing in the darkness, becoming that which will be needed to lead the people from exile back home. The waiting is difficult. It almost seems impossible, but it's understood as a necessary component in order for the growth to take place, in order for the promise to come to fulfillment. I often think about something I heard the poet John O'Donohue share in an interview, where he tied together hope and waiting as one of the secrets of change. As he put it, in the spiritual life, there are these significant gestations going on in us that we're not even aware of. And sometimes when we come to a threshold for which we need to become different in order to cross over, we'll be able to be different because secret work has been done in us, of which we've had no inkling. In other words, the spiritual practice of hope involves a willingness to slow down and wait on the work that God is doing in and among us. And to trust that in the waiting, in the darkness, even at times unbeknownst to us, something is growing. That said, the spiritual practice of hope not only invites us to be still and trust that God is at work in these ways, it also invites us to actively anticipate the world as it should be. Krista Tippett, an American journalist and host of the podcast On Being, talks about how she often asks the same two-part question of people at the end of each interview. The question she asks is, what makes you despair, and where are you finding hope? Having asked that many, many, many times, she's found that the answers to the two parts of that question, what makes you despair, and where are you finding hope, are usually more conjoined than oppositional. She's discovered that hope is a practice, a choice to live open-eyed and wholehearted in the world as it is, while faithfully attending to the world that wants to be born. We're not meant to avoid the complexity and grief and unsettling tension of the world as it is, but to engage it deeply and honestly as we participate in the unfolding of the world as it should be. There's this incredible moment in Jeremiah's story where he purchases a piece of land from his cousin. The land is in an area that's already fallen under enemy control, and his cousin, of course, wants to make some quick money, I think, as he's being exiled from his home. So he tries to sell his land to Jeremiah. And it's really the last place you'd want to make an investment if you're being wise about your money. But God asked Jeremiah to do this as a tangible sign of hope in God's promise of restoring the people one day to their homeland. And Jeremiah obeys as a way to anticipate and participate in what he believes God is doing, even in a season of uncertain waiting. Now, it's easy to look at Jeremiah and applaud him for doing something so radically hopeful as the world's collapsing around him. But it can be a lot more difficult to embrace hope in the midst of our own collapsing circumstances. I have no desire to preach to you some sort of idealism or optimism under the label of hope today, especially in this long season of waiting, as we continue to endure as a community this seemingly endless pandemic, political upheaval, polarization, injustice, and oppression. On top of the grief, loss, and anxiety I know so many of us will be personally navigating in ourselves and our loved ones this holiday season. Things are authentically bad. And the message of Jeremiah and of Advent and of Christmas is that it is precisely into these times of greatest tension and despair and challenge and waiting that hope is somehow born again and again and again. That is the message. In the times when we find ourselves standing in the widest gap between the way things are and the way we wish they could be, God is already acting to bring peace, forgiveness, love, justice, and healing to life in and among us. This is our basis for hope. Not that things are going to be instantly better, but that God has and will continue to speak those same words of promise into our future. The days are surely coming. In all of the spaces of tension this season, between joyful expectation and harsh reality, between bright lights and lengthening darkness, between hectic Christmas parties and spaces for prayerful expectation, Advent is inviting us to practice hope, to find the necessary quiet and darkness for allowing Christ to be born within us during the long wait, even as we actively anticipate the coming kingdom of love, peace, and joy that Christ's birth ushers in. Hope is in that tension of our waiting and our anticipating. As we become increasingly centered on our assurance of what God is growing in us, in this church, in our city, in our world. And so I invite you to practice hope during this long season of waiting. Pay attention to the way things are and to God's still small voice in the midst of it. And simultaneously do all you can to help give birth to a future that looks increasingly more and more like the way things ought to be. In each moment, in every encounter, we look to God and we wait. Thanks be to God.
In this Advent season, we offer a spiritual practice known as a breath prayer. This meditative practice has been called a prayer of the heart and is a way of helping our often distracted minds focus. As you inhale, whisper or think to yourself, "The promise is coming," briefly holding your breath before exhaling as you whisper or think, "I don't have to wait alone." Again, breathe in, "The promise is coming." Hold before exhaling, "I don't have to wait alone." Let us pray together, observing a few moments of silence following each petition, allowing an opportunity for you to inhale and exhale this prayer. God, our hope, make us increase and abound in love for one another. Keep your church on the paths of love and faithfulness. God, our hope, bring forth your reign of justice and righteousness. May all the world know your peace and safety. Breathing in and breathing out. God, our hope, you place signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars. Give us the eyes to see, the wisdom to prepare, and the faith to trust in you. God, our hope, help us to overcome division and restore unity. Bring all people together in a spirit of love and respect. God, our hope, remember your compassion and love. Heal and restore the sick and the suffering, the anxious and the grieving. We pray especially for those on our prayer list and any whom you might name either aloud or silently. God, our hope, you are the answer in this long wait. Make us an Advent people, watchful with expectation to welcome and receive you in the stranger's face, in the loving act, in the moment of grace, in the presence of healing, in the birth of possibility, and in the gift of wonder. Let every heart prepare you room, God of hope. Pray this in the name of Jesus, your Son, who taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, thy will be done, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread.
this season of Advent, this long season of waiting, we all need to feel, see, and share hope. So I invite you to be people of hope and receive these words of benediction from St. Paul. May the God of hope fill you with joy and peace in believing, so that you may abound in hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Amen.